So my apologies for going over 15 minutes, but I was speaking about the value of science, and I'm talking about how it varied depending on the school district, um, and far as finances and resources. So in school A, or District A and District B, I'll start with finances, or continue with finances. So again, basically with school A or District A, which is one school in the district I looked at, they have basically everything they need in terms of resources. And in the other district, District B, which encompasses different schools in elementary and middle school, they said that the district did provide some things. Um, they did get one principal did provide STEM money, or specifically told the teacher it was STEM money she was providing. Another was the school principal at the elementary schools did give the teachers a budget. But again, I think the difficulty came in when the elementary school teacher mentioned she was glad to have the finances to order materials, but it was a quick turnaround and she wasn't sure what to order. So she ended up buying certain science kits, and she's able to use some of the material in the kits, but not everything. And I apologize, I have dogs barking in the background. As far as time, the elementary school teachers, again, they take time, they teach both science and social studies, so they do take from one area and put in the other, and then try to balance it the next day. The middle school teachers said they definitely don't have enough time because they only have 45-minute blocks for science. And in high school, they said they have enough time, but they need and wish they both indicated they wish they had more planning time to prepare for science instruction. Um, and one of the science teacher did mention that research says the minutes in the classroom is never a factor in increasing test scores, that she wished they would allow more planning time, and especially at the beginning of the year. And that was from a science teacher. But in middle school, again, they're working with 45 minutes. In some cases, 40 minutes, because they change classes. As far as the value of science, again, with resources and equipment, again, you can see the difference between District A and District B. In Lafayette Parish, the biology teachers told me they received 32 new binocular microscopes from the district, a new set of HP-inspired calculators. They were trained in 3D questioning. They were trained in iHub. They received new laptops, which their school is has a one-to-one program with technology, and students do take computers, or are allowed to check out computers and take home. So they're a one-to-one school. They did get new Promethean boards. One of the teachers mentioned she has a large classroom with lecture and a lab area. They received an Exxon educational grant or scholarship this year for $250 that the school allowed them to decide what was needed. And they purchased 8 new flat top hot plates for their department. They do have flexible hoses in every classroom with sinks. They have eye washing stations. They have a fire extinguisher. They have a fire blanket. And they also have locked chemical cabinets in all of their science classrooms. So this is throughout the entire science department, not just one area of science. This is every science classroom in the high school. Whereas in St. Landry Parish, again, we're looking at a different tax base, different levels. All of the schools in St. Landry Parish are basically Title I. Lafayette, almost all are Title I, but you still see differences as far as the financial resources go. The teachers mentioned they had a few kits with some usable things. They do have Promethean boards. One of them, an elementary school, mentioned mystery science. So these first three are the elementary teachers. Middle school teachers added that they have a hover cam and a smart board. They have scales, yardsticks, rulers, but they're all limited. They received one teacher indicated she received round magnets, but she needed bar magnets for the lab she was working on. So she purchased her own set of bar magnets. They have some stopwatches and others are needing to be replaced. And one teacher mentioned that she had 3 microscopes in her classroom, but she had a class size of 30 last year, and the class sizes for her range from 28 to 30 across the board last year. So they all had to share the microscopes. The teachers there did say that in middle school, especially, they had to buy a lot of out of pocket, a lot of things out of pocket, which included digital scales because they only had, she said, her words were the old grocery store scales. They bought bar magnets. One teacher mentioned that she remembers going into a store and buying all of the bendy straws, all of the styrofoam cups, and she had to do this a few times in order to get enough material for all of the science sections that she taught. So she said she's used to, and the people in stores are actually used to her and know she's an educator when she gets to the counter. Another teacher said that the students lack supplies, basic supplies needed, so she had to buy class sets of scissors and glue so that everyone could do the work at the same time. Um, and again, I mentioned magnets already. So a lot of differences as far as equipment and resources. Before I go on, I did pick out that one of the teachers in elementary school said she had 50 minutes a day, which is enough time. And then in middle school, some of the interesting things I noticed was that one teacher mentioned that she has old textbooks still in her room from 2001, and she also has old test prep books, but they were with the old LEAP for science. Another middle school teacher mentioned that there's a bunch of stuff in the closet, and she was able to start a STEM club, and her principal did give her STEM money. Another teacher mentioned that, and these were just some of the things I thought that stood out. They could use a consistent yearly amount of money, and then they wouldn't have to worry. And they also across middle school they asked for consumable supplies. One teacher said she does ask for a small fee, but it still means never having enough to have everyone perform labs at the same time. They're also limited with space. One teacher mentioned that she has only 2 tables and 12 desks, and that she would like to have more tables for science. Another teacher said that, in elementary schools, this was interesting, the schools don't have labs or lab equipment. The only middle schools that have labs are the ones that were old high schools previously. So, for example, when they need water, she said we use buckets, and she just hauls buckets of water to her classroom, and that's in middle school. She also said that space is an issue, and labs are often difficult because their class sizes are so large. They have, last year she said she had 28 students in a classroom. So she had to find other things to do, and she couldn't perform as many labs as she wanted to. And this is a different teacher who said she had 30 students in her room. So I find in middle school the class sizes with the teachers I interviewed tend to be larger. One teacher said that everybody needs a graduated cylinder, but they don't have them. But the principal and the district seem to be trying to get them more of what they need. When I spoke to the instructional specialist about the needs of the science teacher for middle schools, she mentioned, and I quote, she said it's a hot mess because every school is different. She surveyed all the schools at the end of the year, and some of them mentioned they needed goggles, beakers, graduated cylinders, and so they did put in an order for those things for middle school. But again, they are all different. She said the needs are just ongoing, and as far as professional development, there's not enough offered for science teachers in the schools that aren't able to send enough science teachers to receive professional development. It's usually the best teachers from the district that are able to attend, and it's often not the ones that need it most. She said that as far as the district is concerned, ELA and math. In math subject areas receive 90 minutes or 2 blocks of time, whereas in science and social studies, those are 45-minute blocks in the middle schools. And again, this refers back to what we said earlier about testing and the tested subjects and weight. She also mentioned that the schools at this time in St. Leonard Parish are not technologically advanced. So there's still a lot of things that need to be done in that area. But the district is working on it. They are allowing her to conduct educator academies for science teachers, which are held after school, and they pay a stipend to the teachers. So those are things that are growing in St. Leonard Parish and that they're definitely working on. And it seems to be that they're making strides at the middle school level in terms of their science professional development and resources to teachers. Time is something that I'm not sure if that will be addressed or adjusted at this moment. All right, so the third part was on science instruction, and it asks, what does science instruction look like? In elementary school, both teachers refer to the 5 E's, whereas middle school said that it's organized, but they mentioned structured chaos, and they mentioned the teacher as a facilitator. The high school teachers both referred to orientation activities prior to the unit, which I thought was interesting. They also mentioned inquiry, questioning, experimenting, and they both said it was lots to do, lots of different steps in their classroom as far as science instruction. Changes in science instruction. All of the teachers indicated that there were changes in science instruction, especially over the last few years. But the high school teachers mentioned that this was basically the way they had been teaching before. It's just more depth for them. They said the new standards has driven these changes, and all agreed they're moving from textbook, vocabulary, lots of tests, and lecture to more inquiry and 3D science. And both the high school teachers and the instructional specialists agreed on those things. All the teachers are required to follow the standards, and I put a few interesting quotes there from teachers. The standards and their impact on curriculum and instruction. In elementary school, they said it's what kids should be doing and learning, but sometimes it's a bit more challenging for younger students to grasp. In middle school, they said it's more time consuming, and again, we're talking about teachers with a 45-minute block for science. They did say it's harder without a curriculum. The depth of knowledge is deeper, and a lot of them are unsure about how much depth they need to go into with the standards. But they do agree that it's more fun for students, and it's changing the way students think about science. And in high school, the teachers thought that the impact was it challenged how students think about science, and they agree in every area that it required more depth of knowledge. As far as assessment in science, they all mentioned group work, projects, tests, but a minimal amount, quizzes, project-based learning, writing, applying knowledge. Some mentioned CERs, which I identified here, models in 3D, 2D and 3D questioning. Some mentioned creating as an assessment, lab reports. But with lab reports, one of the high school teacher mentioned she does give those a few times a year, but with the amount of grading, it's difficult to grade all of them. The other teacher mentioned that multiple choice questions were still good, but that they had to make sure they were higher order and well worded to be effective. The comfort level teaching science, high school teachers both seemed really confident and comfortable, and didn't complain. So I found, as far as comfort level, it depended. The high school teachers were very comfortable, but again, they had been teaching in the areas for quite a while. As far as middle school, they are not as comfortable as they should be, but they are moving along, and becoming more comfortable with science. And